examples of these weapons actually being used in warfare. A bomb nicknamed Little Boy, small by today's standards, was used on Hiroshima, killing an estimated 100,000 people and destroying roughly 4.7 square miles of the city. A bomb nicknamed Fat Man was dropped on Nagasaki, killing an estimated 40,000 people and wiping out approximately 1.8 square miles of that city. Since 1945, approximately 1,500 bombs have been detonated, largely as underground tests. Above-ground testing in the South Pacific and in Nevada were used at one time to study the effects of the blast on structures and on people.
They say that if you ever have a nuclear attack, dig a hole in the ground and stand there. I don't think that really exists. I think if there's a nuclear attack, that sooner or later we're all going to die, and it's not going to matter if we have civil defense or anything.
There's virtually no civil defense program in the area of nuclear war. Now, if you're going to say civil defense strictly as a nuclear civil defense program, it's virtually non-existent.
When the bomb came out, they said, well, heck, they can go down the basements and have a few canned goods and they'll survive once the bomb hits and everything will be all right. We have one in the building. Apparently one part of the basement is a civil defense air raid shelter. Scientists think that they're a joke. I think they're a joke.
There is an extensive fallout shelter program which will protect you from fallout that would result from a nuclear attack. And we have identified the shelters. Some are marked, none are stocked at this point, but they are marked and identified. And people in the event of a nuclear war would be informed as quickly as possible through the media of where the shelters are located so that they could go to a shelter. And if the bomb fell, for example, in Chicago, they would need protection from the fallout here in Milwaukee because the winds and things would carry it here.
I feel that it's a false hope and that any type of civil defense would only create a chance for would create a more chance for nuclear war, because then the superpowers would think, you know, well, heck, you know, there are these defenses against it, so why not? Let's have one, and there will still be some people surviving, and that scares me.
The possibility of survival after a nuclear war has become even more controversial because of the recent discovery of the theory of nuclear winter. Research by Dr. Carl Sagan and a team of scientists indicates that even a small-scale or limited nuclear war could have serious adverse effects on the world's climate and environment. Their theory is that the fires and winds of a nuclear war would create at least two very significant environmental problems. First, the ozone layer of the atmosphere would be destroyed, which would allow harmful ultraviolet light from the sun to reach the Earth's surface. Second, the winds and fires would create dust storms in both the northern and southern hemispheres, which would inhibit up to 95% of all sunlight from reaching the Earth's surface, effectively lowering the Earth's temperature below freezing and creating darkness during all hours of the day. The remaining plant life would die, while all other remaining animal life would slowly starve to death. The picture of a nuclear winter is a bleak one, and the reactions to the theory have been widespread, and in many cases, equally controversial.
I voted for the suicide pills at Brown because I don't think it's an indication that Brown students want to commit suicide, but to express a more general fear of the prospect of nuclear war and what it could do for us, to us.
In the fall of 1984, students at Brown University in Providence, Rhode Island, voted overwhelmingly in favor of a student referendum to stock the school's health center pharmacy with suicide pills that could be taken in the event of a nuclear war. While similar votes have failed to pass on other campuses, the Brown University vote was seen by many as a symbol of the resistance of young people to the nuclear arms race and the threat of nuclear war.
The issue was not the pills from the start, it was nuclear war. And the media liked to make this into a suicide. Jim Jonestown campus, this is not, we're concerned students. This has nothing to do with suicide in Jonestown. The headlines were often misleading because they said students were to vote on suicide. we don't want to commit suicide. We're saying exactly the opposite. We want to prevent suicide. We want to prevent nuclear war. There will never be a nuclear war. War is an outdated term. There will only be nuclear suicide.
I think it's really sad that because of nuclear war, people are so strongly against it that they wanted to commit suicide.
I believe that we all have the responsibility of continuing on our human life in the best way possible. I think the thing that they're doing at Brown University is really morally wrong.
You know, they really are giving up a big element of hope. And in a sense, by saying that, you know, they're saying that it's inevitable, and that's really very disappointing.
But I would not want to go through the pain, and that may sound selfish, but to go through that pain would just be awful, and I can't imagine that. I'd either, you know, like at Brown where you take the cyanide pills beforehand. I think that would almost be better because you wouldn't even have to experience it.
I think that I would rather be real close to where it actually occurs so that way I could die right away. Because even if I did survive it, I think we'd be in such a bad condition and the whole world would just, we'd have to start totally from the beginning and the whole world would be radioactive.
I also think that the world, not just this country, but I think that the entire world would just like be dead, not lifeless. But I think that there won't be anything left in the world to live for. There's, you know, if you're one person left, what do you have to live for?
I have hope in myself and of my generation that we can at least change things a little bit. If our older generation can't, we can at least put down our hands and say, hey, Russia, let's discuss this, or hey, let's make the world a better place to live, and forget about, you know, making myself look good.
Ever since I became aware of the real destruction nuclear war could do, which is a few years ago, I've kind of set myself up to try and prevent it, because if I can do that, if there's some way I can prevent nuclear war from ever taking place, then I'll probably be one of the most famous people in the world, but also it'll let me and my children have a chance to live. Otherwise, a nuclear war could happen tomorrow.
If there was some way that everybody, whoever has feelings against nuclear war, because I know there's many, if they could just speak out and if their cries could be heard and something could be done about it.
Nuclear war is a threat to my life, and I believe that I have not only the right but the responsibility to do something about it.
You know, although I'm not a big rah-rah guy, you know, get a big protest, I think that's still very important because it keeps the leaders aware of how concerned we really are, and through our voting and through protesting and various things like that, I think it's essential to keep our leaders aware that, you know, we like being alive.
There are many groups around the world that deal with the nuclear issue. Some are activist-oriented, some religious, some specifically geared toward peace discussion and conflict resolution. One group, the Educators for Social Responsibility, began in the summer of 1982 with the specific intent of educating teachers and students about the nuclear threat and bringing the information into the schools.
Educators for Social Responsibility promotes the idea that students should be able to make up their own minds about these controversial and critical issues of our times. And to do that, they need to be able to look at different points of view, multiple points of view, and they need to see the issues in all their complexity. Too often when we read something in the newspaper or hear it on television, it comes in very much of a simplified form. So we want to complicate students' thinking, and we want them to see that there are many different perspectives on the problem, and to be able to look beyond these different things that people are saying and understand their different biases. So that what we're trying to do is promote a balanced presentation.
The question we put to them is, for 1 week we're going to explore the question of how can we best avoid a nuclear war, because we don't feel that any side, being totally objective about it, any side wants to have a nuclear war. One side argues that the best way to avoid it is by building up weapons. The other side argues that the best way to avoid it is by having a nuclear freeze and dismantling weapons. We put ourselves in a position of a McNeil and Lear, so to speak, with the kids on the issues. We let them know very clearly what our views are, simply so that they know what our perspective is and can detect our biases when they come through. And then we present the facts on both sides.
Butler Middle School in Waukesha, Wisconsin has several teachers who are active in the educators group, and they've been able to successfully offer nuclear teaching in the classroom.
I think that students who have not had any education about this in the schools or have not talked to their parents have a real hazy picture. They've just gotten things from the news, from movies, from friends, little bits and pieces, so they're coming in with all kinds of impressions. I know that our 8th grade science teachers deal with it just from a scientific point of view. What are the effects? And I know from talking to them that they get a lot of questions. The students have a lot of misinformation, and it's a relief, I think, to them to know what exactly are the facts.
I was sort of scared, like, I mean, you know, what if this really did happen, you know?
One